Hey everybody, it's Denny with Why Is This True? And it's Sunday, April 29th. I think it's the 29th. In Northern California, it's noon and the sun just came out. It's very partly cloudy today, and there was a big cloud over most of the morning, so I thought, oh, I'll be out here in the breeze, in the shade, or in the cloud, the shade of the cloud. But it's kind of bright now. So, got my notes. And today's going to be a fun day because we're going to do a trial of the webinar system that we have for Get Wisdom. It's called Webinar Jam, and so this is something we intend to do. Carl and I, and maybe guests, maybe Brian from time to time. A weekly webinar that we're going to mix it up. We're mostly going to talk about the mission of Get Wisdom today. An hour from now, we're gonna do it's just a trial, so we're going to try to work out the bugs and everything, and then the actual real webinar will be on May 8th on Sunday, and that will be at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So looking forward to that. It's a pretty capable platform, but it usually boils down to the operator, how good it comes out, how good at we are pushing the buttons and using the bells and whistles. So we'll see. So if you want to participate in our trial run, send me a message on the contact form on whyisthistrue.com, or if you're on Facebook, use private messenger, and then I can send the invite over. That's what I'll do as soon as I get off here. I'll go back to my computer inside and I'll check for messages, and I'll send you the invitation. And we don't need a whole bunch of people on there, but we're just going to try to test it, see how it works. So the more people that are on there, the better. The better we'll be able to test it out, and we might, some of you might want to give us feedback and stuff, constructive criticism, hopefully, and we can work out the kinks and make it better. Okay, so that's about an hour from now, 1 p.m. Pacific time. I think we're in pretty good shape for the website. That's the grand opening is going to be tomorrow, April 30th. But of course, the tell-all will be after we have many visitors, folks signing in to become participant members, folks signing in and paying to become supporting members, and others purchasing the Lightworker Healing Protocol online course. And I know Carl has a printer up there, and so we're kind of doing things the old-fashioned way for a lot of different reasons. But we're actually, the first thing you do when you order the course is Carl's going to ship you the book, the manual. And so this is a 150 or 160 page manual that is basically the backbone of the course. So you read that first, and then you can go back onto the Get Wisdom website and see the video modules that will kind of flesh out a lot of that information. And you can also go on to the website where we have a forum for the Lightworker alumni. So if you sign up for the class, you have access to that forum where you can share your experiences, get questions answered, and speak with other practitioners about the practice, about the work. Okay, so with this whole Get Wisdom thing, my hope is that you'll visit us, sign on, and start your adventure with more content and value than you will find anywhere else on the internet. And I think that's a promise we're going to try to uphold. There's a huge amount of information already on that website, including all the channeling series videos. The transcripts are available to read, and if you're a supporting member, you can actually download those text files. And it's really interesting reading them as opposed to listening to them on an MP3 or watching the videos. It's quite a different experience for a lot of us. So it reads really well. The channeling's actually almost come out book ready. It's really fascinating. So most of you are aware of seeing Niara's epic higher self channeling that we did. We recorded that a couple weeks ago, and Niara was really busy. She had a lot of things she had to take care of, and it was a lot for her to digest just from the channeling, the information that she got. So she finally got back to me I think it was day before yesterday. I can't remember. I could lose track of time. But anyway, she decided to go ahead and make it public. And so it was epic. I mean, the interviews 4 hours. I think Carl channeled for over 3 hours straight through, channeling Niara's higher self, Niara Isley, who a lot of you already know. I made a joke towards the end of the channeling. Niara and I peed on the floor, and our lips were sticking to our teeth, and Carl just kept talking. The guy's amazing. Anyway, we did have to take a break, though, a bathroom break, because it was a long time to sit there. Um, so it was epic. Niara's questions were extraordinarily brave and insightful, and she learned some hard truths. She should be commended for exposing the lie about some silver lining around what is popularly known as the secret space program. There's not one bit of this that is redeemed once it's exposed. It is, however, a vast area in dire need of healing, and then more healing, and this is especially goes for the perpetrators, whether they be humans or ETs. So thanks so much to Niara for her bravery and willingness to share her story. And along those same lines, and some more sobering news for us, the following is from Carl, which I thought would be interesting and helpful for our viewers. And so this is Carl in a recent correspondence. There was a hypnotist Denny Hunt asked me about, who supposedly had 8 clients whose higher selves all gave the same message about an event coming in March to shake up the cabal. Creator told me she was actually setting up the clients to receive a psychic manipulation by an ET, and they never connected with their higher selves. So this was not apparently done intentionally. Obviously, it's just the way. It's just a testament to the power of the manipulation that goes on with these ET psychics. So Carl continues. I subsequently channeled Creator to ask 2 pre-recorded questions about achieving safety by hypnosis, facilitating a higher self dialogue. And Creator mentioned along the way that the central problem is that the higher self simply cannot be reached that way. The disconnect is too profound. So here are the questions and Creator's answers. Question: can a hypnotist helping a client speak with their higher self via hypnosis actually pave the way for an imposter to step in and mislead them? If so, how frequently does that happen in such sessions? And here's the answer. In the same way that the spiritually focused individuals and those interested in extraterrestrials receive special attention by the Extraterrestrial Alliance, this is true of all who use tools to engage the subconscious. This is because they understand it is a gateway to truly understand the person and their inner conflicts, as well as intuitive reach, and that can be dangerous for them in helping people encounter and unravel various manipulations that may be underway by extraterrestrials, as well as human agents using manipulation of the mind for nefarious purposes. That in turn serves the Extraterrestrial Alliance. So they will take note of such practitioners and hook in on them and their doings. It is almost certain that a hypnotist helping to connect to someone's higher self will have a visit by an imposter, and this will completely derail the possibility of benefit of being obtained. There will be the semblance of useful knowledge, and there will be seeming cooperation with suggestions given, but this will not bear fruit because it is not the client's higher self being addressed. It is an imposter misdirecting the energy and intention, and it will fall on deaf ears and be a wasted effort. This happens again and again for many practitioners, and it is a travesty because the potential here is so great, as you see with your own channeling, which is making a valid and authentic connections to the higher selves of your clients. This is in the hands of hypnotists is rarely achieved. This in the hands of hypnotists is rarely achieved. In the same way that hypnosis will not allow a connection to the deep subconscious, it will not have the capability to open a gateway to the higher self either. And the latter is in fact more difficult if one were to compare the two. So it can in fact be considered a futile exercise. This can only be done through a bona fide authentic channeling. And this is the reason for the problems described in your recent query about the example of client higher selves giving a similar story about extraterrestrial matters to such a practitioner. This was all staged managed information to dupe those involved, conducted by Anunnaki psychics serving as an imposter. The mechanism is to project the thoughts onto the mind of the client being hypnotized so they will speak the words. This phenomenon is directly ana- oh gosh, I can't say this word. Inaugural. This phenomena is an analogy to what you see. I'm going to use a different word. It's analogous or analogous. This phenomenon is directly an analogy to what you see in hypnotizing a person and asking their inner spirit attachment to step forward and have dialogue. And the spirit will indeed be brought forth with the host speaking for them to communicate their thoughts and words using the voice of the client as though the thoughts of the spirit were their own. This, of course, cannot be differentiated from fantasy or hallucination, and this is the reason that the mainstream continues to deny the reality of these phenomena. Okay, so the second question is, will a hypnotist safety request be enough to prevent imposters from stepping in pretending to be the client's higher self? Very good question. Okay, this will likely not happen, and the reasons are the same as for all such requests. It will be paid lip service in most cases. Few, until they've had the direct experience of dealing with imposter energy, will have the intensity of intention and focus, plus the requisite 100% belief quotient in the divine to ensure safety to pull this off without having something go wrong at some point. If the latter happens, going back to a pristine state of safety will be much harder. And the reason here is that the utilization of hypnosis is not allowing something to come through unconstrained because it is always going through the client's mind. So the client under hypnosis will hear the instructions, will hear the entreaty to have the higher self begin to speak. And wanting this to happen, it is all too tempting for the subconscious to step in and offer some commentary. Regardless of who answers, if an imposter wishes to join the fun, this will happen, and then the information will be impulsed to that client to answer the clearest and most powerful thoughts that come. Imposters in the form of extraterrestrial psychics are very adept at interposing their own thoughts into human beings and have them think, speak, and act however they wish it to be. So this is child's play for them. If the client has a high level of belief as well as the practitioner in the divine, then safeguards may be placed to prevent an intrusion, but the problem will still remain that the higher self is not within reach, so it will be a failure to communicate in the end unless the subconscious chimes in and begins to express wishful thinking without the client realizing what is happening. Either way, this is not a productive exercise. So anyway, it's this is kind of like huge news for a lot of people. There's a lot of activity out there in this area that is evidently being hijacked, and once you look at some of this for a while, it becomes evident. But anyway, it's for you to decide. Everybody's going to have their opinion about this, and I would imagine that there are some strongly held opinions about this. So we'll put it out there, and you can chew on it and make up your own mind about that. So I took on what I think is a bit of a bold project for me and rewrote and did an audio recording of the Lightworker Healing Protocol for clearing people, tailored to my own non-visual meditation practice for connecting with Creator, and the steps themselves worded to accommodate a non-intuitive practitioner. So I could get into that more, but I'm not going to, just in the interest of time, because I have a lot of stuff I want to get through here. So this is not to say that I'm not intuitive. I am, but in this context, I do not currently consider myself intuitive in terms of the way the protocol is currently formulated. The beauty of the protocol is that it is truly a high-level prayer request and does not rely on intuitive skills whatsoever. Its effectiveness relies on the belief quotient of the practitioner, which can always improve right up to 100%. The intuition can also improve, but it is never necessary for the protocol to become effective. So the more I learn about it, the more I understand its brilliance. The Lightworker Healing Protocol is really a work of art in so many ways. And I think when Carl originally put together the narrative that's used for the procedure, there's four. There's one for clearing people, there's a spirit rescue, there's one for animals, and there's one for location. And so they each have their own dialogue that you're using, which is a high-level prayer request, very specific things that you're asking the divine realm to do. And it's set up so that if you are an intuitive, each step gets a validation or some information that could potentially be passed on to the client. In most cases, it's not, because it's not productive. And that's probably a whole nother subject we can get into sometime. I'm still learning about that. Um, but anyway, I just want to put that out there, is that, I've been doing these practices, and it's encouraged in the manual to go ahead and make your or optional in the manual to make your own recording, so you're listening to the instructions for the protocol in your own voice, which I think does have some advantages for some people. I think it will for me. So I started with the first one, the clearing people one, and the next one I want to do is the spirit rescue. I could do like 5 live streams on that, easy. It's so deep, it's so wonderful. Um, anyway, let's continue. Recently, Carl announced that he has an addition to the protocol, which is now included in the new version of the manual, which is at the printers now. I don't have any details other than it does explain the mechanics and limitations of manifestation or manifesting, and it also involves issues of karma, and that's all I know about it. He was quite excited about it because he thought it was going to make the whole, the power of the protocol greater. So I sent him an email requesting the addition so I could include it in my sessions, and I'm still waiting. Okay, Carl, send it over. Uh, he doesn't watch these, so he'll have to get it etherically or something. Okay, we now have 20 participants in the MAP forum and a healthy number of posts and replies. It's really interesting. I wish I had more time to read there because I think I would learn a few things. Tonight I'm supposed to find out if Teresa Talea, I pronounced her name wrong in the interview, but anyway, tonight I'm supposed to find out whether the interview goes public or not. We did an interview, it's about an hour long, and she was the one who wrote the book Eternal Humans and Finite Gods: How an Ex-Prophet and I Left Religion and Discovered Universes Beyond and Within. And then she wrote another book after that. It's a shorter book. Let's see. I was going to read her bio, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. Oh, it's there. Yeah. Proposing a new cosmology beyond death science, and that concisely analyzes cosmological theories of both mainstream physics and New Age spirit science, and reveals their ideas of oneness as short-sighted and ultimately unrealistic. She introduces another paradigm of distinct eternal energies existing before and beyond the varying fragmented creations in our experiential reality. This book is tailored to the skeptical public and scientific community. And for more information or to support Teresa Talea, please visit rediscoverypress.com. So that's www.rediscoverypress.com. I really enjoyed the interview. She breaks the mold. One of the things I commented about is that, all the sacred cows out there in the world of religion, and the New Age communities, and the light workers, and the disclosure people, we all have our sacred cows. Well, she gets rid of all of them. They're all out in the field and they're dead. So, and she's polite about it, and she's very scholarly about it, and it was a great interview. She kind of breaks the mold. So, she's got her own ideas about her stuff, and I especially recommend reading her book, the first one, the one I read, the Eternal Beings, Eternal Humans book. If you've read Ashiana Dean's books, the Voyager series, if you've been able to read those two, then I highly recommend reading Teresa's book. My long-term plan is to read the 2 Voyager series books and then go back to Teresa's and read it. But none of those reads are what I would call an easy, read. It's kind of like the material you kind of have to study as you read it, or go back and stop and reread parts and go through it very methodically. At least for me, that was my impression of how to get through that material in a productive way, so you really come away with something out of it. So it was a great interview. I hope she approves that it goes public, and if she does, I'll try to get that up tonight. And during the interview, we avoided disagreements in the interview, and I mentioned that my opinions can be brought up if somebody wants to interview me. In the meantime, I have this live stream platform, and that is more than sufficient for my purposes. Most of our followers will be able to tell where there are disagreements and how important they might be. And for those who are really interested, reading her book would be the best thing to do, and I do recommend reading her book. And especially, like I said, if they've already read the Ashiana Dean series. And her second book might even be better if you just want to approach this her work in like you don't have time. You don't have time to read a 100-page book. Then get her second book that I mentioned, which is Proposing a New Cosmology Beyond Death Science. And you can get that on rediscoverypress.com. Okay, this is really interesting. This is a question I get quite a bit, and it comes up in different on the channeling series. Almost no matter who we've done channeling with, I get this question quite a bit, and it's about what happens when you die, and about going into the light or not going into the light. And there's this truth claim out there that going into the light is part of the karmic reincarnation trap, or the reincarnation trap is if you die and you go into the light, well then you're going to get stuck and you have to come back and reincarnate, and it's just like this big prison system where you get recycled through on the planet so they can feed on you and all this stuff. And so pretty early on, this is actually came from June of 2017. We asked this question in one of the viewer questions for Creator, and if you go to the article that goes with this live stream, there's a link there so you can go watch the video on Get Wisdom. That's where all the videos are now, all the channeling series videos. And it was the first question in 13 minutes. We asked this question. So here it is. There is a theory that upon death, it is recommended not to go into the light because it is a trap used to capture souls into an unending series of incarnations. Is this true? And this is the answer back in June. The reality is the opposite. The message itself, the recommendation itself, is a trap. It is a disinformation campaign to render people powerless, as all power flows from the light. If you think about the fact that humans in their very origin are light beings who come from the light, which is the divine light, the source, the wellspring of everything in the universe, to deny its existence to avoid making contact and that connection is a disservice of major proportions, and that in itself will condemn the person not to further incarnation, but will further narrow their experience to being trapped in limbo. They can only reincarnate by returning to the light. That is the launching pad, so to speak, for the physical incarnation. All incarnations take place with the cooperation of the light and light beings who help to establish the connections and the conveying of energy, and to begin to prepare the biological nest, so to speak, to have the correct organismic requirements in place, the right DNA complement, and so forth. And the energetic ties to the mother and the father and even existing siblings began prior to the actual engagement on a soul level, with a new life forming in the womb. So this is something that will not happen from the lower levels, the in-between plane. So what happens if someone is not prepared to return to the light, not looking upward, not looking to a reunion with the loving arms of the divine, and all they know in the large family grouping to which they belong, who are still in light being mode? They will not be prepared for their transition and may become trapped in limbo, or my words, an earthbound spirit. Back to the answer. This is not a place to be because there's extreme deprivation of all kinds. The experience can be quite difficult and quite tragic. To suggest a perspective that would trap such individuals as serving the darkness and does not serve the human who needs to know the light is their friend and their origin and their birthright. How are we doing on time? Oh, good. Okay, 23 minutes. So, so with that, with those questions and what now, when I get contacted, depending on the inquiry, I'll be making reference to the Wisdom site, unless it's about an MAP issues or one of the interviews on WIT. So it's kind of sad for me to have so much content just disappear from Why Is This True? And I get reminded of that. I get a message from somebody that says, hey, what happened to all the videos? I can't find any Carl's videos on your channel anymore. And it's like, if I've been migrating them over to Get Wisdom, they're not going to be hosted on YouTube anymore. They're actually hosted on the server that we're using for getwisdom.com, and that's basically an attempt at preservation on our end. So we're not at the mercy of the whims of YouTube or all these social media sites that can just cancel you for whatever and it's gone. So we're trying to protect ourselves from that situation. So that's why all the videos are no longer on Why Is This True? They're over on Get Wisdom now. So I'll be making reference to the Get Wisdom site unless it's about MAP issues or one of the interviews. It's kind of sad for me, I said that, for all that to be gone. But to be honest, if I had to choose between Why Is This True getwisdom.com or getwisdom.com, I would choose getwisdom.com. I would let Wise is True go. The mission there is clear and so sorely needed. It reminds me of the very short interview I did with Eric Rains up in Mount Shasta in August of 2016. Sitting by the creek at the Methodist camp when I asked him what he hoped to accomplish, and he answered, "Save the world." And that was such a great answer. I love that answer. It struck me profoundly. It is true that we can do this, and now we know how. And in doing so, we can be assured that this is not about some flowery variation on manifestation. It's not about manifesting, but employing the power of the being that in the first place we're dumping the savior programming and replacing it with action and not visualizations that have no bearing on the reality of Earth and separated from the human suffering that is still going on here and now. That's the barometer. So I went back to one of the earlier interviews on WIT, and I saw the transformation, and looking back at myself, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to watch myself. But I guess I could tell the hope that I had was from what I was learning about ascension, earth change, the telos story, the prepare for change narrative, and so much of the stuff from Gaia TV and on and on. Perhaps it was the same hope that did not let me rest in those things I learned. Maybe deep down inside I knew there was something more to learn. It became clear later I was a victim of disinformation, and also the victim of the savior programming that has plagued mankind for thousands of years. I really felt that a transformation was coming based on external factors like what is described in the narratives around the event, and the pending solar activities, and the power of human consciousness amongst a very tiny percentage of the population of Earth. Then I learned about the more sober and realistic versions of the alien agenda coming from boots on the ground testimonies. I learned about mind control, especially its use on whistleblowers, lightworkers, UFO/ET researchers, and the actual state of human consciousness with its actual reach and power. I was avoiding all the telltale marks of buying into and embracing the savior programming. That is why for last Sunday's live stream, I used the title, "We Can't Send Them Packing." And it sounds very defeatist, but it's actually a very realistic claim if you think about it. Getting to the point, the Anunnaki, the reptilians, and the Arcturians with their soulless grays are not going to leave the Earth because a handful of New Age lightworkers are envisioning a brighter future. Using their powers of consciousness will not, unfortunately, change the realities on Earth due to their meditations and powers of manifestation. This idea is actually part of the savior programming. It is a stasis program where no substantive changes will take place. It's akin to staring at one's belly button and expecting a flower to grow there. So the answer to this, as best as I can tell, is found on the getwisdom.com website. The savior programming is placed with the partnership. Two very different things. Our partner has the power and responds to human requests for healing. It's really not any more complicated than that. It's an answer that is astutely avoided elsewhere. It's an answer that is feared in some quarters where the mantra is, "Only we can save ourselves." Look at the world around you. You have the answer to what "only we can save ourselves" gives. What does that answer give to the humans here? Only you can decide if that's an adequate answer. I would only ask that you get evidence in your own life and the evidence regarding the conditions on Earth, and especially for those who are still suffering. If this idea of humans devoid of that partnership can actually change what is needed. To me, it seems blatantly obvious, but don't take my word for it. Your answer is the most important one. So, to close, because we got to get ready for the webinar, I'm up to about 40 Lightworker Healing Protocol sessions, and after 50, I'm going to be deciding whether to hang my shingle or perhaps be one of the referrals for the service on Get Wisdom. Because you can go to the Get Wisdom site and actually get the healing protocol. There's all the services are listed there. I think it's in the store. So if you want to get a healing service, what's called people clearing for the Lightworker Healing Protocol, you can actually go to Get Wisdom and order one there. Right now, the primary person offering that is Carl, but that's going to change. This is a very critical need, and for anyone seriously pursuing the Lightworker Healing Protocol practice, they should entertain the idea, because over time, Carl is going to be doing less and less session work and more research. In the meantime, I was given the most beautifully written testimonial from someone who was the recipient of in one of my sessions. He also received session work from Carl and others in the MAP forum, so rightly I cannot take all the credit, nor would any one of us, because it's literally a prayer request to the divine realm. We don't do any healing. It's a high-level prayer request. That's what it is. So the practitioner's part is to make the request and serve as a living conduit during the actual session. But I want to thank this person who sent the testimonial, because it was so beautifully written, and it's my first one. So it was a really nice gesture, and it was so well written. I'm gonna close now. The donations have stopped as of 8 days ago, so I need to restate my request for financial support to continue this work full time. And thank you so much to all who have donated over the last several months, because it did add up to a significant amount of money, and it had enabled me to continue without having to stop and go back to the 9 to 5. If you can help with a donation, I surely would appreciate it, and I'll put it to good use. And I also would like to thank all those people who are helping Niara with her GoFundMe campaign. Things are working out for her, and she's having some success in that regard. And so thank you to all the people who watched her interview with us and her higher self channeling, and also thank you for anybody who donated to her fund. So anyway, have a great Sunday. Maybe we'll see you on the trial version of the webinar coming up at 1 o'clock, about a half an hour. And have a great Sunday, and victory to the divine human. Bye.